Hello everyone, welcome back to MixBus TV. David here. Hope you're having a great day. You guys asked for it, so let's do this. My 10 favorite EQ plugins and what I like them for. Let's get to it. To narrow it down to 10 EQ, I went for a combination of workhorses and specialty EQ. Before we get to the list, let's get one thing out of the way, the elephant in the room of Fabfilter Pro-Q3. Why would you need any other EQ if you have this one? This is arguably the king of digital equalizer up to date. I think we can all agree to that. Pro-Q2 was already amazing, but with version 3, Fabfilter knocked it out of the park, adding the dynamic bands. So this is now also a dynamic equalizer, and it still has all the great features that made Pro-Q2 such a big success. So the great spectrum analyzer, I basically just use this one as a spectrum analyzer. All the bells, the filter, the tilt shelf, now a flat tilt as well. It also has a function that I've always loved on Pro-Q, which is the keyboard here to set the frequency on the note, on the exact note. You can do zero latency, neutral phase, linear phase, and the matching EQ. So this is the workhorse EQ by definition, the most versatile out there. Sounds great, and you can definitely just mix with this one. But as to why we want more and different EQs when mixing is gonna be another video coming up next week. So let's start with our list. The first one is gonna be a character EQ, kind of a curveball. A very colored equalizer, Audified RC062A. There's also a B version. They sound slightly different, but they sound very close. This is a very rare emulation of an old equalizer. What I like about this? Well, first of all, the simplicity of it and the saturation. This EQ has very unique bells and shelves, so it doesn't work for everything, but when it does, you will hear it immediately, especially on the low end. That's probably my favorite band on this one. Same for the saturation. When it works, is really unique. You have an input and output, so you have to play with the gain staging to make it saturate right to hit the sweet spot. So let me play some audio through this. See what I mean with the low end? It's so round and big with a little bit of grit, but it's not distorting at all. I love it. You can put this one on mid-side, as you see I just did here, and unlink the channels. It works really well, especially on loops and stuff like that. The mid and the highs depends on the material. This is a pretty colored and gritty EQ. It works great on rock vocals and bass, for example, but this was the first one, Audified RZ62A. The second one, you probably saw this coming because I have two hardware here sitting next to me, is the Louder Than Lift Off Chop Shop EQ. We have a full dedicated review on this one, so I'm not gonna spend much time on this, but this is basically a tilt EQ with filter, with resonant filter. This little EQ has one great trick on the low end. You can see that in depth in our dedicated review, but let me play some audio through it. So great smooth filters. The resonant bump on the low cut is a blessing on bass and 808. Let me try on a kick, for example. Here how you can completely change the character of an element, in this case our kick drum, not just adding low end and cleaning up everything below the corner frequency, but also adding top end by adjusting the focus. Louder than lift off chop shop EQ was our number 2. Number 3, and things gets really interesting, Softube Summit Audio EQF 100. I love this one so much. Think of this one as a Pultec on steroids. It's got super sweet sounding bells and shelves. It's got versatility and a full sound. With set frequencies for each of the 4 bands, it doesn't have too many options that you get lost in it. I usually start with this one with one of the set frequencies for each band, and if it doesn't work, it's either the one above or the one below, and that's it. There's no second guessing, there's no sweeping. This EQ is on the transparent side. I would say more like open than transparent because it does have a color and a specific behavior. Let's try this one on a full track. You heard how polished the sound of this EQ is incredible. The low end is so clean and big and solid, and the high end is just lovely. The first 3 dB is so open and clean, and then it starts to get slightly gritty. I just love this one. My favorite uses for the Summit is definitely 2 bass, vocals and bass, but overall any complex material, because you have 4 bands to mess around with, cut and boost, overlapping frequencies. It's absolutely great. I want to try it on vocals really quick. On vocals, it's not just a great top end, but the low shelf, if you use it in bell, it's great to add body to female vocals, which is exactly what I'm gonna do here.
We won't dwell on the past and the shadow it casts, so unembraceable and it lasts. Look it dead in the eyes, the peel off the sky. All is erasable and there's nothing left here for you. We won't dwell on the past and the shadow it casts, so unembraceable and it lasts. Look it dead in the eyes, the peel off the sky. All is erasable and there's nothing left here for you and I. Why do we even try this? We won't dwell on the past and the shadow it casts, so unembraceable and it lasts. We won't dwell on the past and the shadow it casts, so unembraceable and it lasts. Look it dead in the eyes, the peel off the sky. All is erasable and there's nothing left here for you and I.
One word about this vocalist, because everybody's asking. Yes, she is amazing. She's Natalie Nebula, singer of Reagan Romance, a project that I'm producing and mixing with Ty Oliver from Powerman 5000. We just finished the first mix. We released the first single actually last week, so check it out. About this EQ, you heard the body and the top end and the clarity that it adds to her vocals. Summit EQF 100 was our 3rd one. Next one, our number 4, is first of all one of my favorite brand of plugin, and second, another one of those curveball. It's not the king of versatility, but boy, it sounds great. Is the Psy EQ from Soundtoys. Now, yes, I will use this just for the drive, just for the distortion. 3-band, super simple equalizer. What I like this for? Well, this is a character EQ, it's a color EQ, anything in a mix, any element that I want, not necessarily to bring up front, but quite the opposite. More like I want to lo-fi in it and sculpt in it with EQ. I'm just gonna try this one on a drum loop here, with and without. Now bear with me because it does not have an output level, so I have to compensate by putting an SSL channel after it, so when I do AB there's going to be a little bit of difference. But let me solo the drum loop first. I would leave it just at this. It sounds so great. So let me redo that live. In context with the other loop that belongs to this drum pattern. The way it saturates that kick drum, it's just so sweet. I cannot get this result with the capitator, and the capitator is the saturator from Soundtoys, so I don't really get why, but they did something special with this EQ. Let me try a really quick on a loop. Again, you hear how pleasant is the breakup of the saturation on this plugin. It happens in that low mid range. I cannot think of any other plugin that breaks up nicely in that range, but Soundtoys did something really cool with this one. Another character EQ, the RS56 from Waves. This is a fairly versatile EQ for being a character EQ. I think it's part of the Abbey Road collection. What I liked about this one is a passive EQ, so it's somewhat more natural than the usual color EQ that you find. I really like it. There's not one specific band that I like on this one. You can see you can set up each band to either high end or low end or one of the bumps, one of the bells. You can see you can set up each band to either low or high end on top of the 4 different bells. This allows you to do pretty interesting tricks. Let me show it to you on this drum. The key with this one for me is broad strokes and small adjustment, very smooth curves. This is not a precise clinical EQ. I like it on groups. It works well on background vocals, on some drum kits, for example. Sometimes it's a little too round for like very modern pop and rock, but it's great for any other genre. I like it on synths very much because especially with VST, EQ tend to add some artifacts. This one doesn't. So to open up synths is really nice. And also it has mid-side function. That's one way I like to use it on synth. RS56 from Waves. Next one could not make the list because you know, if you follow the channel, is my default EQ basically on every channel. Is the SSL-G channel. Now, I usually use it in the form of the SSL-G channel, but I'm gonna use this one because this video is strictly about EQ. So what is it that I like so much about the SSL-G EQ, and I prefer it to EQ, is the frequency divider on the low mid frequency and the frequency multiplier on the mid frequency. These two features, along with the fact that the SSL EQ is a standard. We all mix on SSL console for a reason. It's a familiar sound. Countless top 10, countless record has been mixed on SSL for a reason. It sounds great. And let me show you my one trick for the low end. This works for me 99% of the time on low end material, whether it's bass, is acoustic kick, the sample kick, is a loop, anything when I want to add really deep low end but not sub energy. This for me works so well. We click the divider on the low mid band, so this knob, the frequency selector, is divided by 3, so it goes really low, and I boost with a fairly narrow Q, so that low end is so focused and so powerful. And that's pretty much my trick. Really narrow Q all the way down with the frequency divider, and that's my low end trick. It works every time. The other thing that I like about the SSLG is, again, the frequency multiplier on the high end, on the actually high mid band. So it works the opposite than the low mid band. This one multiplies the frequency selector by 3. So by turning this knob in this between 4 and 7K range, we are actually 3 times higher. You can boost almost the air frequency, actually even higher than that. And it works really well on vocals. It works really well on guitars. Let's listen a loop really quick. I mean, you can hear how powerful the low end gets. With the SSL EQ, I noticed one thing, especially with this version from Waves. A little goes a long way. Like 2 dB of gain boost, for example, in the mid range feels like 4. So be conservative with this one. I know there are other SSL version of this one. I still prefer the Waves. For the next one, we also have a dedicated review. It's Smart EQ2. You know, this is an intelligent equalizer, is a linear phase equalizer. I'm not gonna talk too much about this one because we actually have a video review dedicated to it. I'm just gonna tell you where I like it because I actually use it all the time since I tried this one. I like it on vocals, some vocals, especially if they have a problem. They've been recorded in a non-ideal room or with a not too good of a mic. I like it on acoustic material like pianos, on acoustic guitars. I used it on a double bass recently. It's great for me and very useful on real instrument recorded with microphones more than on electronic material, but it's also a great creative tool. Being a linear phase, it's got pretty much no artifact, and the smart curve that you see here, it can be a very creative tool, a very unique way to shape any sound for sound design. So, but the way it was intended was for it to analyze the material. As you can see, I'm doing it right now. He's analyzing these female vocals here, and then adjust the profile. These weighted curve that you can see here, the green curve, based on the analysis, this EQ is supposed to give you a curve that's pleasant for the human ears. So you can literally adjust just this based on the curve.
The word is out, you're doing wrong. Gonna lock you out before too long. Your lying eyes gonna tell you right.
And you can load profiles with this one. Standard speech, bass guitar, everything. Is a good EQ for me to put as a first EQ if a track has problems. It's similar to the vocal assistant, I think it's called, on Nectar 3 by Isotope, which is great too, but this one, being a linear phase, is so very natural. So I usually, when I have a problematic track, again, an acoustic guitar, an acoustic bass, vocals, I'll let the EQ analyze the track, and once I'm done analyzing, just tweaking maybe just the green band or 1 or 2 of the nodes, I'm in a much better spot to start my mix. Next one is kind of cheating because it's 2 instead of 1, but it's the API bundle. Is the API in particular 550B and 560. 560B, one of the most underrated plugin in my opinion out there. The 550B, if you follow the channel, if you've been following the channel for some time, you know it was one of my favorite hardware equalizer. I had 4 of them. I sold them because op amps kept blowing up, but I do like the 55B as a replacement for that. I feel very familiar with it. It doesn't sound exactly like it, but it doesn't matter. It sounds great to me. It is a great tool for mixing. It's so versatile, and one thing that I like, and we will talk about this in that video that I mentioned at the beginning of this one, why you need more EQ than just Pro-Q3, is that you have set frequencies. They've been around for, at this point, 50 years, and they've been used on countless records, so you don't have to guess. Those frequencies worked for so many records, for so many artists, for so many genres, that if you cannot find a way to EQ your material using those set frequencies, then your material might have a problem. But what I like the 55B equalizer for, well, generally any punchy kind of genre, so dubstep, hard-hitting EDM, synth-pop, rock, of course, these are basically the standard rock equalizer. Element-wise, I like it on drums for sure, on organs and any kind of keyboard, like rock kind of keyboard, and basses, any kind of basses, synth bass, real bass, distorted, clean, it doesn't matter, just it's so great. And in fact, one of the bands that I like the most in this one is the mid low and the low, because they are overlapping nicely, and you can swap the low shelf in bell, and the way they interact, especially here between 75 and 50 or 40, it sounds great to me. The reason because I put these two together is because why I really love the low mid and the low bands for the 550, I prefer the high end of the 560, which is, I don't know, more open. Even when pushing it, you can get away with a lot more gain than on the 55B. It sounds okay on the 55B, and it works perfectly for certain kind of vocals when you need grit. Especially on digital music, you have to pay attention with the high band and the mid band. So with this combination of these two, I got a full spectrum with the API color. And again, the great thing about the 560 is it has set frequency. They interact with each other in a very unique way because this is a graphic EQ, it's different from any other EQ that we saw. The characteristic of API plugins, other than the color, has always been the proportional Q, so the interaction between gain and Q factor. When you boost and you cut, the Q changes with the gain, so it's not always the same. It's proportional. That is a lot of the character of API EQs. I couldn't do a favorite plugin list without mentioning at least one Pultec EQ, of course. The sweetening EQ, by definition, historically, has been on countless records, and for the longest time has been the go-to 2-bus EQ for many engineers, still is for many. Of course, I like Pultec EQ on 2-bus. I like it on vocals, I like it on bass. It's basically a 2-band EQ, so you have the low end and the high end. For those of you who are not familiar with the Pultec, I don't think so if you're watching my channel. But I was debating for this one, which one would have won the top spot for me for the Pultec EQ. And to be honest, I cannot say there's one winner. I can tell you the one I find myself using the most in most situations is the Pugtec, the Waves version of the Pultec. It's a greedy kind of Pultec, so it somewhat is closer to what's the hardware, the original hardware. Does it sound like it? Which one? Because I'm pretty sure all Pultec, all original Pultec on the planet Earth sound different from each other. So it sounds great. That's all it matters. I like it. I like the usual Pultec trick that you can do. Again, it's more a matter of how the bells are interacting and how they were programmed, in this case, modeled, than the color itself. The color itself I can add in any other way. The curves and the behavior and the interaction when you push and pull, that's the famous Pultec trick to make the low end deeper. So you cut and boost on the same frequency. Here the frequency selector of the low end is just one for both boost and attenuation. So one curve is different than the other, so the effect is you create this bump with a dip right at the corner frequency. Well, the Waves version does it for me. It has that behavior. I like the high end only with a very broad bandwidth between 8 and 16 usually. If I find 3, 4, and 5, I don't like them that much. The attenuation is really good, it's really smooth. I like it on electronic material that needs either top end or bottom end, because this is what the Pultec does. But one honorable mention is the Softube Tube Tech. So the Tube Tech recreation of the Pultec now in plugin form. I opened the classic channel from Softube just to show you something different, and just to show you that they have both the EQP1 version, a Tube Tech version of the Pultec, the classic Pultec, and the Mid EQ, which is really good. But I just wanted to show you the difference between these two. What I mean when I say, yeah, they are both Pultec style EQ, but the behavior is so very different. So I'll just bypass everything here and use the waves first. We'll try to match. Now let's try to do the same with the Tube Tech version of the Pultec. You hear how radically, drastically different they sound? So the two. So bigger low end on the waves, cleaner sound on the Tube Tech. I like the high end of the Tube Tech. It's amazing. The Mid EQ of the Tube Tech Softube is great too for electric guitars, for any kind of groups that interacts with the vocals, whether it's synth, whether it's guitars, whether it's, I don't know, any instrument in the mid range is great. For the EQP1, the classic low shelf, high shelf EQ, again, there's not a winner. Some days the Tube Tech is better, cleaner sound, open sound, and some other day the more gritty sound of the waves is better. Those are my favorites for Pultec. And we arrived at the last one. I told you I would have saved the best for last, and I hope I'm not disappointing. Maybe you know this already, but if you don't or you forgot about it, just get it. I actually have the demo version because I suck and I had to get another license for this machine, but this also gives me the chance to tell you that basically this EQ is free, because the only thing that you cannot do with the demo version is to save presets. So if you take a screenshot of the settings, you can recall it easily on the next session, but that's not a good reason not to support Top10 Lab, because they are amazing. They make amazing plugins at a very reasonable price. Psy Eq Mastering Edition is genius, is a brilliant design. I'm not doing a full review of this one here because it's a really deep EQ, has so many features. First of all, where I like you to use it, well, this is a legit mastering EQ. Doesn't matter, analog plugin, this is a legit top-notch mastering EQ. So any complex material, whether it's your mix, whether it's stems, it's great. It's great on vocals, of course. It's great on pretty much anything. It's so versatile. So a couple of key features that I really love about this one. The first one would probably be the unique way they use mid-side EQ in this case. So you can see this control here. If I boost it, you can see this sign, it opens up. So this is basically their version of mid-side EQ. The EQ, the equalization that you apply, will only affect the sides and not the mids. And another thing that I love about this one is the display. You hear how natural this EQ sound. Two are the reasons. First of all, because it's a parallel EQ, and second, because it has this function, the EQ gain, you can see. So when you boost or cut a frequency, it automatically compensates for the overall level. And on this one is the first time that this function works perfectly. I've never heard any other EQ doing this so well as the Psy Eq Mastering Edition. So let me show you that function for you. This will be a regular EQ. So when you A/B the EQ version with the un-EQ'd version, you have the same volumes. That's the best way to actually judge if your EQ it makes things better or just louder. And again, Other EQs have this function. This is the first time for me, for my ears, that it works as intended. It also has a matching EQ. You can learn the input of any source and then averaging and comparing to your EQ. Flop button to reset whatever settings you have going, and an undo button just in case you do that by mistake. It also has a pretty interesting thing here in the center. You can see now is on brightness. It's basically a flat, almost flat tilt EQ, but it also has other preset curves. The hardness, if you want to tame the usually harsh frequency ranges on your mix and compensate for that. And the other one is EL curve. You can see it's based on how we perceive music. So these are preset filters that, again, they're so smooth and so natural. Just with those three, you could at least assess where your mix is at and how much EQ you need, if it can be done on the 2-bus or not. It also has a low frequency monoizer, and Tokyo Dome Labs do these things correctly. Both the mid side and the monoizer. I'm not going into the tech aspect of it because it's over my head too, but I know that the guys put a lot of effort and there's serious science behind their design. So this was the last one, Tokyo Dome Lab Psy EQ Mastering Edition. And these were my 10 favorite EQ plugins 2019 and some tips on how I like to use them. And as you can see, I'm representing UTA. Shout out to Eric Valentine and Bradley Cook. Undertone Audio, I was at Barefoot recording last week. We may or may not get some UTA gear to review here on the channel. Let me know in the comment down below if you want to see that. I hope this video was useful. I hope you liked it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like. If you have any question, leave it in the comment down below. Let me know what you want to see next. Follow MixBuzz TV on Facebook and Instagram. We have a lot of exclusive content in there. Check out my new recording and mixing courses at Pro Mix Academy. Links in the info box down below. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time.